Hey, what's up? What's up? Welcome to another episode of All Over Voiceover with Kif VH. I'm your host, Kif Vandenhubel, and with me in studio today, the lovely, the talented Marina Anderson. Thank you so much for being here today.
Why, thanks, hon. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to finally meet you. We've been communicating, via
the Facebook messaging and
exactly, and all that stuff. And
yes, in person, it's great.
Right.
Eye contact.
Exactly, it goes a long way.
It does.
I know that you've done, pretty much, kind of everything there is to do in this business, from an on-camera standpoint, voiceover. You've
been around the block a few times.
Well, what's your story?
Well driven.
How'd you get started and stuff?
God, in acting,
well,
totally in
even before. Where are you from originally?
I was in Burbank. I was born in Burbank.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, St. Joe's Hospital, between NBC and Disney. Yeah, right there. So I grew up in the midst of it. It was something that my family never encouraged me in.
Really?
And then I discovered one day that my dad's uncle was a producer. He produced all the Randolph Scott Westerns.
No kidding.
No kidding. And so I was dogging him to get me on set. I want to act. And it was all of 10, 11 years old. So
you had that calling even back then?
I did. I remember going to see a Haley Mills movie. Love Haley Mills. And I was like, I can do that. Mommy, I want to do that. And no. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And finally, they allowed me to take an acting lesson class with James Best.
Oh, no kidding. From Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane.
Exactly. So he was my first acting coach.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I got in touch with him about, 4 years ago. He recently passed away. And it was just that reconnection. I just adored him. And I just have these vivid memories of in class. And he'd play music to get you in the mood. And it was my first experience. I remember my audition for him. It was just insane. Mr. Klotz. I remember these memories. Oh my God, you're bringing up all these memories.
What's Mr. Klotz?
Mr. Klotz was the scene where I was, Mr. Klotz was the other character. And I remember looking over at him after I finished. I was 13 at the time, and he just had this big smile on your face, and he goes, "You've got potential, honey."
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. That's great that you were able to start that early in your, in life, that your folks, I felt a fair amount of resistance when I expressed interest to do this too.
It's just something you graduated to, you're magnetic kind of thing. But my mom was a singer. She was actually a contract singer for Warner Brothers in the 40s. No kidding. And my dad turned to aerospace, but he was also a musician. So I kind of grew up with that atmosphere, and my mom gave it up to be a housewife and mom. And so I had it around me.
Why were they so resistant to you entering into it?
I think because they knew it was a difficult business even then, and they just didn't want me to be corrupted, I guess. And so finally, my granduncle, he was doing a movie called A Long Ride Home. Got renamed to Time for Killing or something. Okay. And my very first visit on the Columbia Soundstage, which is now Sunset Gower. Yeah. And then Screen Gems was right across the alley where the Monkees were filming, which I had a terrible crush on everybody. And on set it was starred Ingrid Stevens, Glenn Ford. I met Harry Dean Stanton. Oh my God. I stayed in touch with Harry Dean and kept meeting him off and on throughout the years. I'm still kind of in touch with Harry Dean. That's great. George Hamilton, Max Beard Jr. All these people. It was just an incredible experience for me, and I was hooked. I was totally hooked.
Oh, that's great.
So
that was kind of your first professional gig at that point, yes? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And just after that, I was off to the races. Yeah. It just constant classes in high school. I got my first agent. Lonnie O'Grady was one of my friends, and her mom was Mary Grady, the agent. Yeah. So she introduced me to her mom, and that was my first agent. And did all the school plays, got into college, Valley College, and at Begley Jr. theater class, and it just kind of, launched from there. But I had interest in other areas as well. Because the parents going, learn to type. Right. They wouldn't allow me to take anything in school for elective classes in drama until I got into high school. So I learned the production side, and I learned publicity, and I learned costume design, and it was makeup. And I actually did all those as a side profession through the whole thing. You got to support yourself, right?
You've got to support yourself. I think having production experience
Invaluable.
Yeah. You can, especially in an industry town where it's just about picking up I can work for a day.
Exactly.
I don't have to commit to a 40-hour work week where
Right.
I've got to go. I still need to be able to audition. And if I'm working as a grip or production assistant or working on a crew.
It all dovetails. You
That's
meet
right.
people, you network, and I was temping around to supplement, and then I got actually a permanent job at NBC, network sales, and Frank Neumeister, my boss, was very encouraging and supportive of whatever I was doing and wanted to do, and but it didn't really work with me in the department because I didn't like answering phones a lot. And so he actually helped me get a job working with Dick Clark production for
kidding.
Catherine and Tennille show. So I was the writer's assistant. And to this day, it is one of my all-time favorite gigs I have ever done.
Really?
And from that show, the producers knew that I wanted to act.
Yeah.
I wasn't a member of any union. They got me the skits with John Biner on the show.
No kidding.
So through AFTRA,
Yeah.
I then got my SAG card.
Oh,
So you see,
wow.
it's like you never know where it comes from.
That's right.
Yeah. It was just an awesome experience. And I'm still friends with them to this day. And
That's so great.
Carrie Clark is a gem.
Oh, John Biner, to me.
was he so funny?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God.
It was the
Yeah.
first, impressionist that I was really aware of.
Talk about voices.
Oh, man. and his work on freaking Anthony Aardvark and,
all sorts of things.
All
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
And it just, yeah. So that was a blast.
What about being the writer's assistant or working there was your favorite part of it? Was it because you were able to get in, or was it the atmosphere? What was it that really?
It was
that
a
you loved?
combination. It was all that creativity, and I loved writing too. And that led to my being, a journalist and freelance writer and everything. And I took classes and later, and I just osmosis. I just ate it up.
Yeah.
And they were so nice to me. Pretty much a staff of men,
Yeah.
and I was like 23 at the time. But there were a couple women, and it was just great. They were all to help me learn. Encouragement and I just and then I went on another production job was Cagney and Lacey.
No kidding.
So again, writer's assistant, and I had kind of had it, and they switched producers, and they said, well, the new producer has their own writer's assistant, and you're canned. But they kept me on a temp position, and then Barney Rosenswag offered me a job, pardon me, as his assistant.
No kidding.
And I turned it down
Uh-huh.
because I said I wanted to go back to acting.
No
And they said, okay, well, next season we'll have you in. And I thought, yeah, sure, right. They did. They had me into audition. I got the co-star role.
That's awesome.
And I thought, okay, again, you never know where it's going to come from, right?
That's right.
So I just kind of danced around with all these different departments and things. And, they said, well, you're going to get stigmatized because you're going to be known as a production person. No, wrong. Not.
Do you believe in that notion of...
Not anymore. I mean, I kind of did at the time because I do sort of think of you as like, oh, wow, she can act. I never thought of her as that character or something. And it wasn't until I actually did that audition and I stepped out of my, secretarial box
Right.
that it was a different world. It was like new eyes on me. So, yeah, sometimes some people do, some people don't.
I feel you. I think it's interesting how I'll often comment to my wife about I'll do something in the context of I just where people think of you a certain way, and then you demonstrate that you have this other skill that the
Right.
job that you're doing either doesn't call for, or it just wouldn't be appropriate to go in there and
Right.
to do it, because it's like, oh, I know why you're acting why you're acting up and trying to get my attention.
Yeah.
Is to demonstrate how talented you are. I get it, and it's annoying. But if you have that ability...
Yeah. You have to be able to show them some way, somehow. And that's what's so incredible about the opportunity now with the internet, and everybody's got a platform. It's just to get people to notice you,
Right.
and get that audience in. But it's an incredible opportunity for people. Whereas when I was growing up in those days, it really didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it's changed immensely, and
kids out there and stars of YouTube and all that. Yeah. They've got quite a launching pad.
It's kind of fascinating.
Isn't
and
it?
It is. And it's not just about the interesting thing to me too is like, you can be a content creator, but your content has to align with or be unique enough,
right,
or
stand
loud
out
enough, or just an interest. I mean, with like something as simple as unboxing videos, that someone can be like, I got this package now from so and so, and I take it apart, and this is what it looks like.
Right, right.
You know, that people, and I mean, I totally understand the appeal of that.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I want to know what I'm going to get if I get a
That's
Samsung.
Right. Yeah, I do
thing.
that all the time. It's like, oh, I'm going to research that or go to YouTube and learn how to do that. And it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And so, I just kind of, segued from one thing into the other. And then with voiceovers, that actually was like 1990 or something like that. I had moved to Canada and I had an agent and they had a voiceover department. And I thought, oh, okay. And I did like a little mini demo there. When I came back to the U.S., because I was doing my immigrancy thing, I actually got a voiceover agent, and I started booking. And just off of the demo tape. It was, again, very different than now, where it was a smaller, box of people doing voiceovers.
Where did you produce, how did you go about the business of putting a reel together when you did it? Were you...
In those days, you had CDs.
Okay, yeah.
Again, it's like when I was growing up. The CDs. Yeah. And they would distribute them to the casting people.
But the making of the content on the CD, did you go to a...
I did. I went to a recording studio.
Okay.
Actually, here in Studio City, as a matter of fact.
Great. And they produced it with you and that kind of thing?
Yeah. It wasn't as expensive.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It had a lot of bells and whistles. It wasn't like elaborate. It didn't have to be.
Right.
They just want to hear the value of your voice. And I remember I took French in high school and I forgot most of it, right?
Yeah. And
the audition was for LA Gear. And it was one line. And I did it in French and they actually thought I was French. And I got was my first voiceover commercial was LA Gear.
That's awesome.
Ce n'est pas une fantaisie. And that was it. And that was awesome. I was like, wow, okay. And I just kind of went on from there.
What brought you into that decision? I think there's a lot of, I don't know if you've experienced this. I certainly have faced it. And for me, in Detroit, where I kind of came up, the market was, listen, if an audition comes down, you're an actor, so figure it out. You're an on-camera guy, great, but here's some voiceover stuff. I'll give it a shot. Out here, it feels a little bit more compartmentalized.
Now it is.
Now it is.
It wasn't then.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was it more like I described it, kind of? Or?
Yeah, it was more of a general thing. You didn't have to do your separate commercial or separate radio. It was just you just have one combo, and they listened to it, and that was it.
Okay.
It's because there's so many people doing it now, and there's less time. They don't have time to. Same thing with acting reels. Or look through the whole thing or listen to the whole thing. You really have to compartment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, compartment. Right.
And.
Right.
So there are definite changes into the approach and how they audition and who gets what. And even to the agents, they don't get all the auditions. Not all agents get these auditions in the filtering process. And it's very frustrating sometimes, because you hear about somebody else doing an audition, you go, well, how come my agent didn't get that one? It's Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's an interesting challenge of trying to figure out, either how do I maximize the opportunities that I get to see, and that kind of thing. And especially in the context of a talent agency, how do you navigate that?
Right, because there's so many people on roster now.
Right.
I mean, again, I booked a lot, and then I say up until I'm dating myself. Until 1998, because I was married to David Carradine at the time. We were on our honeymoon, and I got a page. Remember pagers? At the time that we're actually traveling back to L.A., that I booked this voiceover. It was for furniture. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it.
That's okay. And
it was on our way back home. And so we went, and I did the commercial.
Yeah.
And it was off my tip. So again, it was very different, and but that's pretty much the last, because then life happened, and I did other things, and I came back to it like a couple years ago, redoing all the demos, and then realizing, wow, this is a very different industry.
It changed so radically.
Yeah, it did.
From the turn of the century and the internet, shift.
Yep.
And that's about the same. I came in professionally probably in 1996, and I started in the Midwest, but I did I had a 2.5-minute demo reel that I mixed at a recording studio in Toledo, and I had a separate one that was all impressions. And then made cassettes and sent my cassettes.
The cassettes? Yes,
that's right.
Totally.
I remember I had because of the production experience, I've been such a do-it-yourselfer in so many ways. Just
Which
because,
is great.
Yeah, it's helpful, especially because you know how expensive this stuff gets.
Exactly.
And I was trying to figure out what's the best way to either kick down this door or figure out how I could make a living doing it, and no one was talking about how to do it where I was. It just wasn't done.
Right. Right.
And that's in Toledo, but I mean,
I think it applies here too, my opinion. I mean, I know people who have booked with demos that are not that great, and I know people who've paid like a couple grand to get their demos done, and they're not booking.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of getting exposure and opportunity, and it's numbers. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
I think literally.
Yeah.
There's only so many auditions. There's only so many parts. You know very well a lot of the commercials. You go, I know that it's a star name. Animation the same way. So the opportunity to the quote average voiceover person is far less. It's the same thing with on camera.
Yeah.
With the stars, going for the guest star stuff, and with the dribble drabbles that you have left over is practically nil. So you get a 5-liner and you literally won the jackpot.
That's right.
So again, with voiceover, the big advantage, as everybody knows, is you can wear your pajamas and nobody cares. You don't have to wear the makeup, which is great about like the podcast here. Is like I just happen to put on makeup and clothes, but
but I did not. But it is like the sort of because you can do it. Do you record from home when you do auditions, or do you have a studio you go to, or a talent agent's office, or what's your process now?
I've only gone to a studio like when they requested, or a couple times when I didn't have the equipment, but now I have the equipment. And what's awesome about the smartphones now is you can get those apps. Yeah. You can record off your iPhone or Android or something.
Yeah.
And it sounds great. And when in a pinch, you do it, and it's like, it's acceptable. It's totally acceptable sound.
Right.
But for the most part, I do it at home. And to revamp stuff, I'll do the voice, but I'll go in studio and have them add the sounds and whatever, because I'm so finicky about my delivery and what I want.
Yeah.
On an audition, first take is usually the one. They want a second one, great, and they're like happy. I go, you're happy, I'm happy, awesome, out of here.
Right.
When I'm home, tick, 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 an hour later, I'm like, no, I want to refine that word. I get crazy with it, and I go, this is not good for me. I got to get out. I got to get into a studio where,
What do you do to sort of to sort of free yourself up from that? I struggle with the same thing. I was just talking to a guest last week about that very same thing of, I can go into the studio and record my audition over at my talent agency, and I'm in and out.
It's a freeing experience, because at home, for me, I'm the engineer, I'm the sound check, and my mind is too divided, where I don't feel I can really enjoy the process.
Yeah.
I want to just be able to be the creative person and do my thing.
Right.
I don't have to worry about, did this record and it was a level on that, and I would hear the pee popping, it's like, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I'm coming from. I would just prefer doing it elsewhere, but it is what it is, and time factors are what they are, so you do what you can.
Right.
So and I'm my own worst critic. So I listen back to it. It's like, or and then it's like, is that good enough? I go crazy with it.
That's an important thing. I struggle with that very thing of being. I want to send the perfect take, but that's in direct conflict to what like as a teacher, I tell my students too, is like you already are.
Yes.
You're already perfect. What you're doing, your choices are right. They're
exactly.
valid. Did you get like
that was different? That was great,
notes?
creative, but then you're going, is that what the casting director wants? And what if they're going to want a different thing? Well, according to the direction of it, and it's crazy making.
Yeah, exactly.
It just drives me bonkers. So it's almost to the point where, it's an audition. Oh, crap.
What was it like to? What was it like? That's the wrong question. What I'm curious about is your sort of re-entry into the world, kind of like you took some time off from it and then came back in and discovered what things are tools that you are still able to use and things that you've had to modify to figure out.
Well, I actually took a Susan Blues class for animation.
Great.
She was fabulous, and I had the best time. That was, feeling you're in a safe place. Actually, Kathy Kalmanson, too. I took her pro class, and she's awesome. The tools for both of them is to feel confident with yourself that you're making good choices.
Yeah.
Can they be improved upon? Possibly. Take the spin, try this, but just give it a go. Be creative and get it out of, instead of censoring oneself.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have a problem with that. So those were basic tools. And to the core of say, where your voice is, as you can tell by my banter and stuff, I have kind of a quick delivery and I'm a little quirky and stuff like that. But I have a totally different side to myself because it goes with the acting. I play the murderers and the very hardcore people. And I go with the accents and the characters, and that's my favorite thing to do. So I from those classes and from Kathy's, just to, find, she had a really fun game that she did. It was like, if you were, like, it was multiple choice kind of a thing. I have to, like, animal and like 5 qualities if you were a cup of coffee and hot, and then it had like an analysis later. And but it was very insightful as to your personality and your inner workings. And that actually helped with the voiceover. Because when you read copy, it's like, okay, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Who's the audience? And then it shapes your delivery.
Yeah.
And then the voice kind of changes with it.
Yeah.
Mind you, there's specific directions sometimes, but if there aren't, then you're freewheeling, you're flying by the seat of your pants as to what choices to make. So.
Right. I find it's interesting, especially talking to folks who have come from a background of an on-camera world, making the transition into voiceover and treating voiceover as a completely different act of acting. But when you tap into the things that you're describing about the acting exercises that you worked on with Kathy or with Susan and stuff, and that you bring your acting for on-camera process to this space where you're working with a microphone, and the prep is the same. The character choice is the same.
It is. When I'm doing something, I'm animated. I'm like, I'm talking, and I'm part Italian anyway, but with the arm gestures and stuff, I'm acting into the microphone. There's a lot of people, I'll listen to a voiceover, I go, God, that sounds flat. But I think that's kind of a wave that they're going with, like kind of a flat delivery, and it's so opposite to me. It's like it feels restrained. So my natural thing is to be animated in there, and I'm into the character, and that comes through, especially for animation.
Yeah.
So, which I haven't done a lot of, but radio shows. I did a couple of radio shows recently, and that was so much fun.
Tell me about that experience.
Blue Hour Suspense Radio. He's taking all these old shows and revamping them, and it's old-time Hollywood radio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I did Return of the Moresbys and another one, The Crystal Egg. And The Crystal Egg, I did a character too. The first one, it was really more me, but I really had a fun voice kind of like thing with The Crystal Egg, and it was just a blast. So, but again, I'm acting behind the thing, and I had to cry in there and looking at me like, is she doing the tears? Is she, like, yeah, it's great. Very cathartic.
With that part of the process, like having your emotional availability and all those kind of things. Again, working in this context, how do you? What's your process for creating that world that, like the difference between being, all right, so you're doing a scene with Tyne Daly and Cagney and Lacey versus here you are in a room by yourself with a script, or, how do you, what's your process from when you receive a script to putting the performance down?
Depending on what it is, like for animation, sometimes it's more energy required to make the voice really come to more lively, make it more animated.
Yeah.
But for something like the radio show or just like a commercial or something, I just look at the script and go, well, okay, how would I do it, basically?
Yeah.
And then if I feel it's a little shift in different character, then it's a kind of an automatic thing. I never really analyze it per se. People get really into the art of the acting and they articulate in their process, and it's too heady for me.
Yeah.
I'm more of an emotional, just knee-jerk reaction, gut reaction kind of thing. Although for comedy, it is a kind of a planned thing.
Yeah.
So when you have comedic copy, I do really go through it and find the beats and where the punchline is and the buttons and things like that. So it gets very technical in a way. But in a way, you have to let it flow because it is supposed to be light and humorous and comedy.
But you're right. There's a different sort of energetic and rhythm to doing comedy that's very different from sort of the kind of the emotional ride of doing a good dramatic piece.
Exactly. It's almost like different pieces of music.
Right.
Because it is music for the ears, just in a verbal form. You're not singing, you're just doing dialogue, but it is a very similar feeling process.
Absolutely.
So I try not to get too much in my head about the prep and to find the feeling and the meaning of the words and hopefully bring through what the message is for the copy that they want the person who's doing the voice to get across.
Yeah.
Whether it's, very sensitive or kid-oriented or Disney and,
Right.
It's you just try and get that message across as best as you can.
Right.
Pretty much. For the most part.
Right. Very cool. Well, you mentioned that you had been married to David Carradine and stuff. I know that you've written a book about that experience and things. Yes.
Did. I got him into voiceovers.
Did you
it or
really?
Not. Yes. He said, I've always thought about it. And because, he had this incredible voice. I said, well, okay, about time you do it. So when we got to LA, I brought him over to Tisherman. And he started doing the voiceover thing. It was a very positive influence in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, it wasn't so great. But I did write my book, David Carradine, The Eye of My Tornado. Why is it The Eye of My Tornado? Well, because that's kind of how he was. So my purpose behind the book initially was it was a self-help thing. It was very cathartic for me. Certain things I was going to leave out, and I decided not to because I felt it could help other people. I got some flack for that. But for the most part, there were people who wrote to me and said how much it helped them, especially the section where the self-help part is I had so many unanswered questions, and I said, I want to have a psychologist of some sort for this. So who better than Dr. Drew Pinsky?
Oh, yeah, Dr. Drew participated.
Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, and he granted my request for an hour. And instead of just a consultation, I asked to record it for reference. And I said, this is so profound. Could I include it in my book verbatim? I'll send you and he approved it.
Wow.
So I put it in the book because it is so important as to what I went through and that sort of thing. And fast forward through the whole thing, not only did I notice changes with my acting, but of course, because of voice with voiceover, there's a whole different person here as far as bringing other things to the mic or on camera. So, we grow as we get older and experience things. And it was quite a transformative experience with that marriage and divorce and aftermath.
Yeah, I understand.
And then when he passed away, it became another level, whereas I investigated his death because I was convinced that scenario, I'll buy that, but there's still something wrong with that scenario, and I don't buy that. So I put it all out there, and I'm still, checking out stuff. But the update came out, and now I've let it go, and I'll do interviews on it, and it's pretty much how it is right now. I'm off to turning my attention towards children's books and
great,
happier stuff. But when he started doing his voiceovers, that's when I decided, I should really get back into doing this.
Yeah.
And because I was kind of like, the secretary and the personal manager and the publicist, I was doing everything, and it was David. Not 24/7, it was 48/8, and I was forgetting Marina.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people in relationships, men too, you get so involved in the relationship, you forget about yourself.
Yeah.
And you put the other things as a priority, and it's hard to get that back to ground base again.
Right.
And that was quite a challenge. And through the divorce, it was, again, another challenge to get over the anger and the hurt and the frustrations. And God knows my friends have been through it with me. Yeah. Bless you guys for hanging in with me for all that crap. And pulled through it. So all these contribute to, I think, more creative and interesting delivery in acting and that leads into the voiceovers.
How do you feel it has affected you as a performer going through, the trauma and the fullness of that experience?
Interesting. In being a budding actress and going through the years, I knew there was a core problem. I had a hard time getting to tears. I was shutting off, closing off, denial, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward, I in my progression of self-help and stuff, I could feel it growing. It wasn't until the relationship with David that everything just went poof. I mean, just blew apart. And I all of a sudden, everything was on the surface. Everything was bubbling up. I can cry in an instant. I mean, I'm tapping into things that I had blocked off because going through the healing, now mind you, it's not something you want to tap into all the time.
No. Oh, I agree.
But it's gotten me several roles because I can tap into that now with that anger or the tears and the frustrations. And it sounds like it's very negative in a sense, but it's not. It's all part of acting, right?
Yeah, it's those broader is the wrong word. It's those emotions that are like, if you're doing a procedural and you've got to rattle off a bunch of facts and figures,
right.
Okay, well, that's about your memorization and your confidence.
Right.
But there's not a ton of vulnerability in a role like that.
Right. And with the voiceovers, there is so much copy out there where you've got it's the subtleties and right. the nuances and things like that I kind of have, but not like now.
Mm.
And it's definitely shown with the acting. It's just an amazing feeling of realization and confidence and knowing I can get there and now project it out there and deliver it. Yeah. Whereas I had little roadblocks and things. And granted, I got a lot of roles and things like that, but they were certain types of roles. And so it's interesting what casting picks up. Yeah. What they have you come back to read for a different role. And that happened to me several times last year and this year a couple times.
Awesome.
It's like, but try this copy because the role on Bones, I totally blew it with Rick Milliken a few years ago, and I thought, permanently. And then right. My mom had just been in the hospital, and I went in for the read the same day, and I couldn't remember the 5 freaking lines, and I apologized, and I explained, and he said, no problem. So my agent finally got me back in the door.
Yeah, great.
Coincidentally, it was a funeral scene and crying over my uncle. And but the tone of the show is kind of levity to it.
Right.
So in the waiting room, everybody's gabbing. That's another that ticks me off is when people gab and they kind of suck your energy out.
I agree. And I try to find a way to,
shut up?
Yeah. I try to put some kind of bubble. For voiceover, it's a different world for me. I feel a little bit more like, all right, we're going to chit-chat a little bit. And if I need to remove myself,
I'm the same way with voiceovers. I don't want to talk. I also to save your voice, too. And air conditioning, forget it.
Yeah.
So I'm in the reception, and I'm holding the tears. I am on, because it calls for the tears. And so I went in the room and Rick looks at me and I'm like, have the tears like on the verge of falling. And he has this little smile on his face. And I go in the room, and there's all the producers and a couple of the writers. And I was like, yeah,
Were you prepared for that?
No, I was not.
You just thought you're just going on tape with an assistant.
I looked at them and went, hello, it's so nice to meet you. And they got these smiles on their face, and we did the scene, and Rick is just like smiling. And I said, just thank you so much.
Yeah.
They had the little hanky, and they said, have you done a lot of comedy? I said, yes, I've done a lot of comedy. And I booked. So, but it's, again, fine line, but I brought it to the survey. I had to go to a dark place to get that to come up, but it twisted to comedy for the tone of the show.
Yeah, it does. That's fascinating to me about the importance of, even if the result is a comic piece, you have to honor the truth of the moment, even if what you're saying is funny.
Same thing for voiceovers, animation.
Yeah. Right.
It's you're believing, you're doing it. You can't see the tears coming through, and you can make it sound like tears, and it's viable, but still, the process is the same for me.
That's great. I think it's important that no matter what, the thing that I try to impress on my voiceover students in particular is like, look, the only difference of what you're doing as an actor is
this mic.
That's right, and it's your proximity to your audience.
Right.
It's very rare that in theater I'll ever be this close to an audience member. Improv, maybe.
Right. Go up the audience and breathe in their face.
Excuse me. And maybe on camera, on an extreme close-up, it's there, and it'll pick up all those nuances. Mm-hmm. But the mic will pick up everything.
That's right.
And if you're authentic, in your prep and your emotional life for the character, and sometimes even more importantly in commercials, in a way where there's so much emotional content and in those brief moments,
because you see the actors, but you're hearing the voice describing, and it could be prescription commercial or something, and it's very low tone, or it could be upbeat or something, but it's the voice that carries the commercial, really.
Right.
So it could make or break a commercial.
Absolutely.
So I'm like, yes, you can hear my truth, can't you? The mic doesn't lie.
The mic doesn't lie. The mic doesn't lie. So that's great. How did you learn to tap into? I had a similar experience with my emotional life and my acting work, where I cry at a drop of a hat in life, but to bring it to the circumstance of a scene, I really struggled with being able to. I could fake it pretty well, but I had a really hard time bringing the authentic emotion to it. What was your process to getting to that? Was it? It
was telling myself it's okay to feel it. It's okay to express it. No one's going to judge you, and if they do, forget it. Just ignore it. You have to let it out. Don't censor yourself. Basically, was my thing. When I was in Jimmy Best acting class, the only way I could get to tears was through anger. Which was interesting. And now I don't need the anger anymore. It's just I could feel for somebody, and it's that empathy, and I could just go to tears. I'm getting teary-eyed now because I'm thinking of somebody. And it's just tapping into being able to feel and not be embarrassed by it, not judge yourself for it. And don't worry about what other people think, which is really hard.
Yes, it is.
Because we all do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be there for the applause, right? So that was a major thing for me to get through. And then again, going through all the life experiences, I don't care if people see me cry anymore.
Right.
What the hell? That's it, dude.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah, welcome to the party.
How do you put it away?
That's a little tougher for me. Yeah, I have to go to comedy for that. I have to find the levity. Even a lot of times in anger, like what happened to me last night, we had a HOA meeting. Feeling like ripping someone a new and putting levity to it instead. It's my safety. It's your circuit breaker.
Yeah.
Don't flip that circuit breaker. just finding some comedy in it. But when I get to that really dark space and I'm crying for 4 hours like I did on Dexter, I just deliver for 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it turns out they edited the scene, but nevertheless, to release it, drink a lot of water.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm going to comedy again because I'm tapping into it.
Yeah.
It's just you just have to shift your energy and to focus on something that's going to bring you some lightness, literally light back inside, and you'll feel it. You'll feel the energy come back up and lift.
Yeah.
It's like, same thing with voiceover acting. You sometimes you take the work home with you.
Yeah.
It's a nasty character or something. Some people live it, some people don't. They can let go of it. Some people just have to be it 24/7.
Yeah.
I kind of do that a little bit on certain roles.
Does it help you? Is it about, everyone hears the stories about Daniel Day-Lewis wanted everyone to refer to him as Mr. Lincoln. Like, is that element that, I mean, not to that necessarily to that extent, but
yeah, no, I'm not. I don't do that.
if you're in this character for, let's say you're doing a theatrical run or like maybe a full week, guest star on something, and it's a darker character, like, is it to save time in terms of reemerging, or is it,
It's and not so much to save time. It's an emotional in out. It's too wearing on the system.
Yes.
So when I had to do those scenes, in spite of the fact that Bones was lighter and everything, I kind of stayed off to myself in a way.
Yeah.
Because people cracking jokes and you get and then on set it's a refocusing.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to go through. So I tend to want to isolate a little bit until it's over, and then it's a party.
Yeah.
Then let's talk. Oh yeah, okay. Well, tell me about your dog, and fine, but not while I'm working.
Yes.
Especially if it's a dark thing. Comedy, totally different.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, but very serious stuff. And I'll make an exception to that. When I was doing murderer roles, I had no problem in and out kind of a thing because that's not me.
Right.
And that was totally fun to do. But when it comes to the serious stuff and the sensitive stuff, I definitely have to reserve a certain part that I just don't want to deal with people, and I just kind of isolate.
Yeah.
Go back to my trailer and do my thing. When you're ready for me, call for me.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I understand that. I really do. There's that sense of there's so much going on set, and folks don't necessarily. I remember when we were doing Richie Rich, it was a blast. This really fun, multicam kid show.
Yeah.
And we had, the rest of the cast was younger kids. And
lots of energy.
Yeah. And we had a day where we had a lot of extras on set, and the extras were marvelous. And but one of the other kid actors on the show started to interact with the extras in between takes, and I was like, I had to kind of figure out why it was bothering me. But and ultimately, I pulled him aside and I was like, I think I understand why you're hanging with those guys and doing the bits and stuff, and they love it, and they'll encourage it.
Yeah.
They want it. They want your attention very much. But what's happening is you're not focusing on what you need to do.
He doesn't realize his energy is being drained out.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
the focus is not the same.
And it's not the extra's fault.
No,
it's
no.
They're there as
they're doing their job.
They're doing their thing,
and somebody's reacting and interacting with them. Awesome. They don't get that. They usually get shunned off into a corner in the back.
That is a tough job to do because you feel so just
not appreciated.
Yeah, disposable.
Yes.
And for the purpose of what's going on, it's the job you're doing that day.
Right. And the thing is, they're not disposable.
No.
Because without background, you can't do. I can't do all close-ups. Seriously.
Right.
No.
That's right.
So, but yet they're treated a lot like that. It's improved.
Yes.
But they, to a good portion, it's they're being put down or stigmatized, and there's a lot of very talented people, successful actors in between jobs, directors' wives, daughters, learning the ropes. I mean, all sorts of people doing it. It's a very honorable thing to do.
Yeah.
And with insurance, the ways we have to meet, our
That's
bills
right.
and everything. It's it's a great thing to do. I tell young people getting in the business, do background work, learn the lingo, learn camera angles, talk to the crew, network. And you get paid to do it.
Right.
Like, do it.
Spend your day on set.
Yeah.
I can't. When I was out here in 1991 for a school program, and I did background on 2 films, and both of the experiences were radically different from each other. But the commonality between them were the things that I was able to file away and learned. One of the most important things is just learning set etiquette, you know?
Exactly.
It is a foreign world if you are coming from another place or don't have that experience.
That's right. And so learn your marks because, again, they give background, especially if they're interacting with the leads of the show, specific marks. If the background blows it,
there goes the take.
Exactly. So there's a definite responsibility and stress that they experience that people don't realize.
That's right.
I did a lot of stand-in work. You're more considered with crew. You're not considered, it's a totally different category and interaction with crew.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it was just a great experience. I mean, the best people, including, I'm still great friends with everybody that I've met. It's just an awesome experience.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
Not for the world.
You learn so much about, like, how to avoid upstaging yourself.
Yes.
And
the DP point of view, what they're looking at, the difference between him and the director, and the ADs on set, their responsibilities, what they're doing. I mean, it's invaluable.
Yeah.
You're getting, a PhD and stuff and getting paid for it instead of paying thousands to a college.
Right.
It's life actually doing it.
Right.
So, that's the whole thing. It's like awesome.
It's it's one of the things that I love about this town in particular, and that, because it's such an industry town,
right.
That there are so many different ways that you can participate in storytelling. And, I'm so grateful for every one of the jobs that initially, that this isn't the dream job, but it's the job.
Hey, it's a job. If you can pay your bills and you feel creative and you still have energy and time to pursue what your dream is, don't ever give the dream up.
Right.
Just because you get derailed and sidetracked doesn't mean you can't come back to it.
Right.
You never lose sight of that, and that's really hard in this business. I think for a lot of people that I've talked to and that I know, including myself at times. It's like.
Sure.
Wasn't booking and I was going through a horrible divorce and everything. And it was disconnecting. And that's where my dog actually kind of just saved my sanity. My collie Lulu, who is daughter to Lassie. Lassie 8 to be exact, yes.
No way.
Her brother Lassie 9 was from the same litter. So I put Lulu in the business.
No kidding.
And that's actually kind of how I segued because, my admitting I have done background work. But they were hiring Lulu. It was Desperate Housewives. They were hiring Lulu, and I was on the other end of the leash, right?
Yeah.
Because they wanted a big dog, and people knew about me, and they're like, okay, yeah, let's put my dog in there. And then Ghost Whisperer and all these shows, and Ralph Lauren model. I mean, she had her own career. She had her own resume, So, and then they got to know me, and then they started calling me in for auditions for 5 and unders and stuff like that.
Sure.
So, again, you never know where it's going to come from.
Right.
So don't ever when I hear people putting people down for what they're doing, you're making a living. That's honorable work. It's like, why are you judging someone for that? What is your problem?
Right.
That's where it's like, they've got the problem.
You're out. That's right. If you're out here doing this stuff, no matter what the gig is.
Right.
My wife says all the time, I'll never begrudge another actor work. Period. It's too hard.
It is
to make a living doing this, if you can, however you get it done.
Yep.
I learned early on too when I'd get an audition for like one of the great jobs that I've been able to do over the past couple of years has been this crazy prank show on True TV for David Spade. Yeah, there's quite a few.
Yeah.
And my initial reaction to it was like, oh man, reality prank show. And my wife was like, how dare you? You have an audition tomorrow.
Good for her.
Yeah,
really?
Right?
Really?
And it helped me go, yeah.
actually fun to do. It's acting because you have to be believable in those scenarios. 100%. You can't blow it.
And the people I've met from the executive producer on down through the ranks of the crew and the improvising actors who we've become close friends with, and this group of folks making this show has been one of the great joys of my professional life.
Yeah.
Where I had judged it from the outset of not being something that I could feel like I could hold my head high about. Oh, come on now. It's like, how dare you? This is the job is to make.
Yeah.
Period.
But we all kind of get there at some point and make that mistake, and it's like, oh, it's an audition for someone. It's like, oh, you got an audition, for gosh sake, you know? It's an opportunity. Don't belittle it. Don't begrudge it. It's like an opportunity for something.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And like the opportunity to, whether it's share a story or learn a new skill for yourself that you didn't know, that if you trust that, you're going to get what you need through the process, not just financially, but also you might meet a life partner. You might meet best new friend. You might meet some people who say something in passing that is a problem you were working out in the back of your head.
Exactly. The synchronicity.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's part, it's bringing like your talents to the forefront. There's a lot of people, voices who, like David, never thought of doing it, but who you hear in conversation, like they do a funny voice. They go, wait, you do voiceovers? Like, did you have that on your demo? No, it's not going to. No, that's really good. And then they have second thoughts about it. It's, again, the self-censoring and the self-criticism is our worst enemy.
That's right.
So I really try to encourage other people, and I have to remind myself every once in a while not to do that, and to free your creativity and just try something new. And just, if you blow it, you blow it. Nobody's going to, in your own room, just try it on tape.
Right.
See how it sounds and start comparing. Oh, and the other thing, like ADR, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
A whole other category, which I've done. And the whole movie with a Russian actress and stuff, who coincidentally I didn't know at the time until I did it that David was in the film.
Oh, no kidding.
After we divorced, I'm like, okay. So that's another very technical thing.
Yeah.
And again, they wanted to enhance her performance, but at the same time, have an American accent. And I had never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
And it went great, and was a very technical thing. So I encourage people to just try, tech stuff at home, and tape something off of TV and record it back, and try, dubbing it to sync. And just do your own workshop, so to speak.
It's so valuable to just take that initiative and mess with it and discover that it's no different.
Right.
It's no different. The only difference is like, oh, well, in post they're going to record it in Pro Tools with beeps.
Yeah.
As opposed to you hitting play back from your
it's
file.
Just a different format.
Right.
Yeah.
And but the discipline, the skill set for you as an actor is exactly the same.
It is. Yeah. And I think it's actually maybe a little even more intense for people who do the ADR and the loop groups, because they have, a core group and all these different accents and dialects, and they do their research and things. I mean, it is a whole different world, and to me, it's great. It's very lucrative, and if you get in there, power to you.
Yeah, that's right. It's
but develop those skills, because it could lead into something in that area too.
I think that's fantastic advice. I think people, if you want to, we talked earlier about if you're a on-camera person, and if you close the world off of voiceover because either you don't do that or whatever, if you come up with a mindset of like, it's all performance, you just have to figure it out, and looking at the breadth of what your skill set is, how can I continue to develop and strengthen each of these different avenues that you might be in?
Exactly. Keep branching out. It's like, if you don't think you can do voiceovers, just give it a try.
Yeah.
You might be able to get an agent, and if you don't, there's all these self-submission things you can do.
Right.
I mean, seriously, there's tons of stuff out there.
Boy, between voices.com and Voices123 and those kind of resources, you can be auditioning all day, every day.
Exactly. So the opportunity's there.
Have you ever done an audiobook? Have you ever done anything like that? Have you narrated?
Funny you should mention that. No, I haven't done one, but I'm trying to figure out how to do my own.
because I want to do an audiobook of my book.
Yeah.
Who better to do it but me, right?
There you go.
So I was doing some research and I kind of got sidetracked with stuff. So I'm kind of circling back around to sussing out how I can do that.
I know how.
Oh, good. Okay, well, we'll talk.
I'll tell you. And it's like I started on audiobooks on ACX.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know that I've talked about it in any depth I think I did earlier, but like it's marvelous. It's a site, and there is no promotional consideration happening from ACX here at all. Would be nice if it was, but there's not.
Are you listening?
But you could conceivably post your own book to it, and then cast yourself as the narrator producer, and go and say you're going to do a royalty share deal. And then you would produce the audiobook yourself.
See, that's my glitch is I know it gets certain levels and certain recording stuff, which gives me a headache.
I know, but look, if you're gonna do this, you've already got the learning curve of having to record at home.
Right.
It's the same.
Yeah. I might need different equipment other than GarageBand, but
No.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Dude, I record everything in Audacity.
Oh.
And Audacity's free. You can download Audacity off Audacity's website. There's a little bit of learning curve, but not a ton.
With a Mac?
Yeah.
So
totally.
We're giving technical skills here.
That's right. If you have like a USB microphone and like...
Oh, I've got a really cool microphone. I mean, official microphone, yeah.
All right. Well, if you have an official microphone, and you can use Audacity, you can use GarageBand, and you can just record it and make it sound... but like the technical specifications.
Yeah, there's certain megahertzes or something.
But that's honestly that's easy to set. It's just 16 hertz, 16.
Well, we're going to have a tutoring session later, and then you can tell me how to do it.
That's it. But it's the way you're already recording. It actually is already the way you're recording. And then what the biggest thing that I found going through, the most time-consuming part was editing it, because I recorded everything, but as a narrator, I produced the book.
Right.
So I read the whole thing, and then I had to go back through reading the copy and then correcting all the errors, re-recording a mistake here, there, the other thing.
Oh, see, that's where I would do it like right then and there. That's what would take me a long time.
It is very time-consuming.
Yeah. Yeah,
but when it's done, it's done. And then when it sells, you make money.
Yeah, 472 pages.
472 pages?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have to have a book in the car for you.
That's great. I take everything back. Yeah. That's going to take a long time to produce that book.
It's like, well, I figure if I do so many pages per weekend.
Yeah. It's a marathon without a doubt. Yeah. But there's lots of different options.
Yeah, we'll have to talk
We'll continue.
further.
We'll talk offline.
But as far as what I would want to do outside of my own book, that is a whole. See, again, I'm not going to say no to anything, but my natural lean or interest would be children's books or young readers, because that's just my natural energy, and I wouldn't want to do a technical book.
Yeah.
I don't think that's my wheelhouse, I guess you'd say.
I understand.
I don't even think my voice is really in that genre. I think it's a different kind of a voice, quite frankly. But yeah, that is a very different. I know a friend of mine does a ton of them, and it's a certain set of challenges. I think you have to have a certain mind for it, literally.
The patience was the toughest part for me about it, and I've done maybe 20 now, and
oh my gosh,
it's like some of them are.
Do you go through it, and you have to different characters. You got to highlight the different characters. You don't want to get caught in like, that was the wrong voice for the wrong character or something. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you, it's
like a director. You have to go through the book and outline and mark stuff and make sure it's all like graphed out.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of homework.
And you can catch yourself making mistakes. The first book I did was a 2.5-hour book called 50 Candles by Earl Durr Biggers, and it was he had created Charlie Chan. So it was
yes.
And it's a San Francisco turn of the 19th century into 18th into the 1900s in San Francisco. And it was a bunch of characters, and it's a murder mystery in a house. And it took me so long to produce it because I had never done one before, and I had to figure out
New territory.
exactly, and who are these characters, and what voice is going to best suit me for this character. So then my lead character I had down here is like this, and then the female characters trying not to sound
too
stereotypical.
Right,
I didn't want to take them out. I studied a fantastic audiobook workshop with Pat Fraley and learned a ton. And one of the great tips from that was for a male, if I'm doing a female voice, rather than pitching her up, to pitch her down. And then by pitching her down, it gave me, it gave her weight. It gave her something sensual, if that's part of that character.
I like that voice.
And it's less, and it's not silly, or I'm trying to play, there's, and it frees me up for ancillary characters to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Weren't you like totally relieved? And when you went on to your next book, it's like, oh, you got this. I got a handle on it.
I thought I had a handle on it.
Oh.
But this was the challenge with ACX, and I got, not greedy was the wrong word, but I treated it like my other auditions. So on ACX, as a narrator, you can self-submit.
Right.
So these are a list of all the books that I would be considered a decent narrator for.
Right.
And then I can do the audition. But I auditioned for 2 or 3 books simultaneously and booked all 3 books.
Oh, yikes.
As the producer. Yay, but
yay.
And I did it as royalty share, so there was no money coming in until the book sold.
Ooh.
So it was just I just signed up for a lot of work.
Yeah,
and the books turned out great, but it was an epic amount of.
Were you stressed?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
And I was just in my closet recording, because we had a desktop computer, recording everything through a 14-hour book, and then all the mistakes, and then editing the thing, playing it all back, and then cleaning it up, and then posting it to ACX and on deadline.
I'm surprised you have any nails left. I wouldn't.
Yeah. No,
what did you do to relieve to just zone out, get rid of the stress? What's your stress relief button?
I like meridian tapping. Do you know about meridian tapping?
Meridian tapping.
EFT or EMT?
I've heard of EMT. Yeah.
I think that's it. I find it to be incredibly helpful.
Was that you look at a certain way and then they tap a certain part of your body?
Yeah, the process is this. I'll walk you through it.
PTSD. Someone does for PTSD. Yeah.
It's incredibly helpful. Like in particular when it's financial worries or just a variety of different stresses. What I generally do. So I'll walk you through it. It's a simple, quick process, but I take. From my right hand, I take my 3 central fingers and I tap the base of my left hand firmly, like this, just kind of repeated tapping.
Like that?
Yeah, kind of like I'm holding it like a karate chop. You see what I'm doing? Like this?
Oh.
So, and this is kind of firm enough to like send energy to it, and I'll say whatever it is the intention is. Like, even though, so we'll say financial stress, because that's kind of a constant as an actor.
Aren't you getting sore? My hand's getting sore.
Oh, no. Well, then maybe you're hitting it too hard. We're doing it be longer than you would do it. But you would basically what you would do is you would say, even though I feel stress about my finances, I know that everything's going to be okay. And then I say it again. Even though I'm stressed about my financial situation, I know that everything is going to be fine. One more time.
Affirmation with it.
Affirmation with it. And I'm still tapping. Even though I'm stressed out about my financial situation, I know that everything's going to turn out better than I expect it to.
I like that one.
So then I stop. I feel the vibration in my hand.
Yeah,
it's
kind of like,
yeah, right.
It's buzzing. Like, it's the energy, yeah.
Exactly. So then I take a deep breath in. Exhale. Now comes the tapping portion. So I take 2 fingers on both hands, both my index finger and my central finger, and I tap right here on the bridge of my 2 eyebrows, right in between this little space.
Yeah.
I tap it firmly about 5 or 6 times, and I say, money, money. Then I tap right here on the side of my eyes.
The outside of your eyes?
Yeah, outside of my eyes.
Money. Eyes.
Money. 5 or 6. And then directly underneath my eyes, centrally, right there in that sort of puffy space right there. That's
the
puffy.
Sinuses.
Exactly. Money. Money. Now right here where a Hitler mustache would be. Money. Money. Down here beneath my lower lip, right there in that little space where a soul patch would be. Money. Money. Then directly on my breastbone, or where my collarbone would be, I guess, right here, kind of where the
Close to the heart chakra.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both fingers, money. Across, and now hug yourself directly across there, tapping as if you're embracing, but like on your rib cage. Money. And then finally, right at the tippy top of the crown of your head. Money. Take a deep breath. Let that go. And then check in with myself and figure out, am I still stressed on that particular issue? And usually I find that if something is giving me stress and I go through that particular procedure, it relieves, it gets me to a functional place where I'm not obsessing about that worry.
Right.
And I can go ahead and make breakfast for my daughter. You know what I mean?
Interesting, because a lot of those zones, like I said, the heart chakra and the crown chakra, and you're hitting those, and on the side of the hand, this reflexology. I mean, it kind of integrates those zones. I mean, it's all kind of integrated. It's interesting. But it's more of a technical kind of a thing.
Yeah, it's a self-soothing way that helps me be able to pick up and move on. And sometimes that's what it takes.
Sometimes it's all it takes.
That's right.
Cool.
This has been so delightful to have a conversation with you about all this stuff. How can people find you, find your work, follow you in social media? Where are you at?
Well, I am on Facebook. I think Marina Anderson 1, because there's a lot of Marina Andersons out there. But my website is marinaanderson.com. The book's selling all over the place. Amazon, definitely find it. Barnes & Noble, it's all the ebook platforms. Just make sure you buy the new edition, which is David Carey and I Have My Tornado, but it has like a full color cover of the two of us versus the original one that came out, and it's kind of like a purple, black and white kind of thing. You don't want that one. Get the updated because it has more of the information in it.
Great.
And I'm revamping my website, so you might not be able to listen to all the voiceover stuff, but it's definitely the combos there and stuff.
That's awesome.
Revamp.
Listen to your reel the other day. Your reel is really, really dynamic and fun. And,
thanks.
Thanks. It's just been a pleasure talking with you today.
You too.
Thank you so much. You bet.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back next week with another episode of All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. And if you get a chance, please, drop some stars, write a review, and catch you guys later. Peace. This has been All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. For questions to be either answered on Twitter or on an upcoming cast, tweet to the show at AllOverVOKiff. Till next week, you get what you get and don't get upset. Claim victory and depart the field.